Hello and welcome to the 93rd episode of Rambling Weekly. I am your host, Taylor. How's it going? I'm doing pretty well myself. I last couple weeks have been busy bumblebee with work. I probably put in about 25% more hours than what I would normally for the time. So a little busy, a little hectic, but I think that might be tapering off a little bit, hopefully to more normal parameters. But we'll certainly see. But yeah, it's I worked 6 days last week, so it was a little bleh, and then or 2 weeks ago it was six days, and then last week it was like working those 6 days but smushed into five, so it was kind of a lot. But that's okay. That's You get those every now and again, and it also was a nice chance to reflect and think. Just a couple years ago, I was working at the different place doing store managing duties, and that was awful. I was probably putting in about 120 to 130 hours a week, and I wasn't being paid any extra because salary work, yay. so, uh, um, so this is nice. This is welcomed. It's good to be able to reflect and think, man, this isn't nearly as bad nor as strenuous as it could be. It's certainly a little tuckered out, but it's not the worst I've had. So I got that. I been continuing my little reading of Thucydides. It's nice to dive back into that. I've unfortunately not gotten any writing done. A bit bummed about that. I think because of all that work and stuff. Part of it as well is that 2 weeks ago I tweaked my wrist real bad, and usually when I have some sort of injury or something, I purposely just go into like sleep mode, lots of sleep mode, so that it as a way to just try to be like, let's hopefully with enough sleep and rest that it'll kind of come back to and stuff. So but that's I've dabbled a little bit in what else? I kind of did a little bit of cleaning there. I needed to organize some things. I have like a big old tote bag that needs. You know what? There's something I wanted to bring up. I don't know what it has been, but I have the last like 2 weeks or so. I've developed. And this is for the better because it's taking away my snacking desires for chips or crisps, depending on where you're at in the world. But I've been eating a lot more pumpkin seeds. I just for whatever reason, I think part of it's also like if I get like cashews or almonds or some sort of nut, like I'll hound those down. And it's like at least with the pumpkin seeds, I'm not hounding them down. But I'm eating enough that it's not making me, because that's what a bad habit I have. I get into a snacking habit. I'm just like, I'll just snack on some things. So, eating a lot more pumpkin seeds. Pumpkin, especially with the whole fall slowly coming here. Actually, I took a couple pictures last night. I had run over to the store real quick to grab some milk. And, it's some really, really nice night sunsetting, or a little after that, kind of more pushing towards dusk sort of look. It was nice and cozy. I really like, if I was to rate it, I'd probably put fall as my favorite, because there's something about fall sunsets and dusk where it just, there's a darkness that's got that nice cool, well, it's more of the warm colors, but this hue to it it's very, very striking to me. Very comfy. So that's that, and it's also nice. It's been hot this week, but I don't think today, but starting tomorrow and a couple days next week, or this week coming, and then it'll be cool, and then it'll jump up a little bit, but then it'll be back down. So I think unless there's a big jump, we're kind of sliding into fall weather, which would be nice. I do enjoy the fall weather, because I don't know. I had something in my head, and then it just sort of fluttered out of my noggin. And so that's anything else been going on? Yeah, I did try to play a little bit of different things. I had re-downloaded some good old Civ 4, and I played it for about an hour and a half or so. And then I realized something I didn't like about Civ 4 is that, and maybe it's just the way that I play, but it's not as much fighting going on. It doesn't. I don't know. It could just be the way that I play, but there's like long just stretches of just kind of putting things together, and then I don't know. Maybe I need to tweak the AI or something, but it's like I'll get back to this some other time. I don't know what else have I been playing. Oh yeah, I guess I putting a list together of some videos and stuff that I'd like to do for after I get done with the Fire Emblem thing. That's the other thing. I've just finished playing through Chapter 8 last night. I actually did it yesterday, playing through it and stuff, and I was kind of surprised. I got through it a lot quicker than I was expecting. It's a bit of a shorter chapter than I had recalled, but I think the next Chapter 9 is a little bit more involved, so that might take some time. But so I got through Chapter 8 last night, and I got to go through Chapter 9, and then write up what I need to write up for Part 5. I'm happy that I'm getting through it and going about it this way, because I truthfully wasn't certain how it would go, and I was half afraid I'd lose steam on it, but because that just sort of happens when it's something you just sort of do for fun, and just a side thing. It's not like the YouTubes are gonna be knocking down my door to make me super internet famous or whatever. So it's just something you kind of do for fun. And sometimes I want to have fun doing other things, but I'm happy that I've been able to stick with this, and I get that. It'll probably be a couple weeks before I get it done, because I've just got some. I know this sometime later this week I've got some stuff I got going on, and that's gonna carry on for about a week and a half or so. So that'll be what it is. But hopefully work will taper off a little bit. I mean, there's still a really big event in my area, a couple big events in my area in a couple weeks. So the excitement, the fun, the adventure. I don't think there was much else on that front then. I guess the one game I would probably like to do a video on. I know I said Final Fantasy 1 would be certainly the next thing I want to tackle, but on that docket somewhere else, I'd like to do Wild Guns. I really enjoy Wild Guns, so it'd be nice to do that and all that sort of fun jazz. I have contemplated doing streams again, but it seems like every time I want to start to try to do that, I'm like, it's if I was to do it, I'd want to do it consistently, and the only thing I could think of to do it consistently would be to be like, hey, late Friday, Saturday night kind of thing. But yeah, I don't know, because work so is a little bit too it's a little too nebulous, a little too versus, yeah, at least though that like time period is a little bit easier to be like, okay, we're gonna do it. But I don't know, maybe it might be something I revisit at some point. Just to play some comfy games like some City Skylines or something. Gracious. But I think that's what we got. Yeah. So topic for today is we're gonna. I've got the title for it. I mean, it was up there, the Panoply of Poisons, and I think this is something that we contend with. So a panoply is like a complete or impressive collection of things. Is, you know, Oxford Languages Dictionary form of it. A splendid display. And what we've got going on nowadays is a splendid display of different sort of poisons. You have your vehicle of choice in the sense of intoxications and drugs and that sort of thing. And you've got the infinite, quote unquote, entertainment of the internet, and then coupled with the easy accessibility of it. You also have the foods we ingest, the drinks that we have, the sugars, or the dearth of caloric quality of stuff that simulates it, you know, like your Splendas and stuff. Aspartame. And we have a lot of these wonderful things, and in having such a wonderful collection of poisons to bother us and such, we also kind of have some different ones, or ones that we might not have had as frequently, or be as pervasive. For example, parasocial problems is kind of the big one I want to get into with this one, where people, especially through streaming or having like YouTube channels or, you know, Instagram and whatnot, it is a nexus, or I guess a springboard, we'll say. Well, it's a springboard for other problems to come to. And so this kind of communication, this back and forth, isn't necessarily really back and forth, right? Because I'm recording this in this instance, and somebody will listen to it later, and I am forgetful enough that I'll say something in it that I won't remember, but they'll maybe perhaps mention something that I had forgotten. And it's just a little different. It's not me, not in the moment. There's thoughts having on it, and it'll just kind of, it'll bounce in different ways. Now the parasocial part comes in. You see this a lot with streamers who are really consistent with what they do, and I've really fallen away from watching a lot of streamers, or at least having it on in the background when doing things. Part of it is I can't concentrate if I want to try to do any writing or anything, you know, maybe even work on the bleeps and bloops. I can't do it. Like, it is too distracting. For work, I could possibly do it, but the thing is I'm in a lot of areas where there's no signal, so it's just kind of like, okay, you just off the radar. So a lot of times, excuse me, yawn. A lot of times what I'll do is I'll just listen to music. I've got a ridiculous amount of music on my phone. from the ridiculous amount of CDs I've purchased over the years. But yes, I know. I think it's a good parameter of either figuring out an aspect of somebody or how old they are is whether or not they have a collection of like CDs or something. I remember a few years back, actually he was on one of these episodes, Zach, and I showed him. I had two big binders, not like huge binders, but moderately sized binders of of CDs and stuff, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you can definitely tell how old you are with this kind of thing." So, so like I'll listen to that, but if I'm just kind of want something in the background while I'm reading or reading up on something, I'll throw on different streams, particularly VODs, more so than like streams in the moment. And you get those people who are very, it develops a sense of community because it's everybody going to see their favorite streamer, and they get to chit chat, and sometimes they're interacting with the streamer, and a lot of times, if it's a big streamer, of course, they're what they're throwing out there, and what's being bounced back by the people in chat. You might get like a couple people here and there, but then there's a lot of instances where it's they're not really focused on that. It is kind of like talking to a wall, sort of. Or it's at least a wall that there might be a chance that there's it kicks it back to you, and I guess that kind of buoys enough of a sense of connection for some people. And we get this a lot of the rampancy and increase in loneliness in individuals, especially since like COVID and whatnot. It is really gotten, I think right now it's not that it's returned to normal, but I still feel like there's a there's a hiccup that people quite haven't figured out how to not I don't know how to put it. I guess take off the armor, so to say, or like to not be as prickly. I feel like there's a lot of that where there's such a negative opinion on other people, and not necessarily specific people, but just people at large. And I think this problem stems from social media. Surprise, but surprise. But we see so many acts of just silliness, stupidness, lunacy, what have you, that we take that in, and then we process that, and after we've processed that, it is now, I've seen what sort of looniness lurks in the hearts of men and women alike. I don't want to deal with any of you, and so we build up these walls, and we become very prickly and very unwilling to just kind of interact with people if we can help it, manage it. And I think that is quite the unfortunate thing to happen. And I get it. There are a lot of weirdos out there, but Just because there's a lot doesn't mean that there are many, if that makes any sense. Because there are a ton of people. So if there's like, say, 5 people that are a bit silly, we'll say, to try to keep it even. You keep on increasing that, and you just get a lot out there. And I think on the other side of it, not necessarily that this happens with streamers, and it probably does to some degree and whatnot. But with Instagram or other social medias, is that because you're projecting out stuff, that attitude starts to seep into other things. It feels like with some of them, especially when you get the what do they call that? The main character syndrome, where they think that they are the main character of everything. So you just need to be like, no, this is everything is revolving around me, because that is what the ancient Greeks got wrong about astronomy and whatnot. It wasn't that the Earth was the center of the universe and everything spun around it, but it was me. They just did not foresee me and how everything spun around me, because it's all about me. Oh, gracious. But yeah, that's the parasocially, that is quite the problem, right? Is that it does feel very much like So, for example, there was one that I caught a stream of a fairly, or the VOD of, I should say, of a stream of I at least from what I've seen and gathered, a fairly, or at least at one point, bigger, for like internet entertainer, we'll say, stripping. I think it's stripping probably. It was part of like Yug's cast and whatnot, and he was putting out a thing for new mods, and he was going over their little applications, and in doing so, reading through them, a lot of instances it turned into, I really enjoy this community, and I would like to find a way to be more involved and to give back. I can't really speak for who, like the people he has in there, and I'm not saying it's bad or not. What I'm saying is that attitude, it's showing, at least it seems to show to me, 2 problems. One, and this is something I feel like is a problem just all around, is that we tend to have a habit of, we return what we get. And I know I've been about this, because like there's a lot of times it's like, I'll be really, really fine with people, but then if you're gonna be obnoxious, I'll be obnoxious back. That ain't good. That is not a good way to go. That's a bad way to treat it. But where I'm getting at with that is that you have these experiences, this enjoyment of these people and whatnot. And it doesn't say, from what little bit you see there, anecdotal, whatever, I think it's still important of a point to see, is that they don't seem to carry that baton elsewhere. I think that's an important thing. It's one thing, to hit the ball back and forth and be like, yes, having fun, kindness to kindness, mirth to mirth, joke to joke, and all that sort of stuff. But then to carry that elsewhere, and sure, sometimes you fall into a den of vipers, or something that really doesn't do you any good. So it's it could just blow up in your face. But I think playing it far too safe and just kind of keeping this cloistered attitude is what makes, and what has been making, a lot of these social connections atrophy. We're not really making our best efforts to not even extend an olive branch for anything, because perhaps people haven't done anything wrong. And I mean, we see and we get the warm heart feelies when people are like, look at the kindness that these strangers did for one another, and they do these weird compilations and stuff, and then we vicariously do that, or vicariously live through that, but we don't take that lesson and go, okay, let me do the kindness, let me extend this out there. Or because they do that kindness, they think, well, where's my kickback in return? And that's not that's an incredibly unhealthy attitude to have about it. I always like the Futurama way of when Bender asked that the space thing. I don't call it. When he how he's known that he's done it when he's done the right thing. Like, how do I know when I've done the right thing? It replies, because like Bender had two different peoples living on him as he was floating through space, and they killed each other. And Bender was quite distraught. That's when he comes up and comes across this entity, and that's when Bender asks, how do I know when I've done the right thing? And then it replies, you've done the right thing when nobody noticed you've done anything at all. And in one hand, like, I think that's the attitude you should have with that, because if you're doing a pomp and circumstance for trying to entertain or trying to catch the eye, hey, look, I'm doing the good thing, I'm doing the nice thing, it is very poisonous. That's a very unhealthy way, because it's less about the deed and more about the person doing the deed, and that's not really where the kindness should be. I remember eons ago, long time ago, there being a news report about it, but LaDainian Tomlinson, he was a running back for the San Diego Chargers, and he would do these like big old, I think it was for Christmas or something, like Christmas gift for kids and stuff in the area and whatnot, who the families couldn't really afford anything, but he wouldn't do like, hey, come check out my charity or anything. At least I never saw it. And maybe there was instances where that was the case, but it seemed like it was something more so that he was just doing. And there's a lot of those instances with athletes and entertainers and stuff, where that comes to be. And I think that's a bit more of a way to approach it, as opposed to, hey, I did this, let's here's this thing that I did. I don't like it. No me gusta. But yeah, so I think that is the parasocial stuff really has insidiously been there was that, what was it, I don't remember who the meme was for it, but they're like talking about, how could bullying on the internet be real? It's it's just on the internet. Close your eyes, or whatever. It's that sort of thing. It's a facsimile of everything about us, and it is nestled and snuck its way and burrowed its way into our hearts, to where it is like a parasite. It is getting all of the energies, and then it's dispersing out. Maybe it might feel good kind of thing every now and again, but it's a lot of, here's this negative garbage, and stuff, instead of like enjoying the company of, your neighbors, your coworkers, your family, and instead we've become very intolerable of a lot of things. And there's certainly things to be intolerable of, but I feel like because we've been able to be so picky in other aspects of our lives, whether that be picky about our entertainment, be picky about our food, be picky about that. That's a behavior, and that behavior doesn't stop there. Like, it's not the same. Nobody catches it, but we do tend to have those moments of catching and be like, hold on, like, okay, they. I don't like the Beatles, so I know for some people that's sacrilege, but I'm not going to stop that from talking to people I know that do like the Beatles or something. It's like, okay, you can enjoy them. I don't really care for them. I don't really find them very good, but that's just me. Hey, it's music and stuff. And I think it's a little bit harder when there is a if you're unable to ask questions about it or something. So for example, I don't watch a lot of TV, so when people I do know watch TV and want to talk about a show, it's like, well, I ain't really, there's no no bridge to cross, because it's like, I don't know. But at least the best way to do it is just ask questions. I think that's a great way to diffuse that awkwardness of just like, well, I don't know how we're going to talk about things if I want to talk about this. It's like, just ask a couple questions about it. What do you like about it? What's the deal with it? And I think that helps grease the wheels to just kind of mellow things out, so it doesn't come to a screeching halt at that. But I think with that, our wonderfully comfortable lives have also made things very difficult. And I don't know how else to think of it of just other than like any sort of abrasion seems to set people off. Not everybody, of course. And I don't mean it makes them erupt or whatnot, but it can be a simple... so, for example, I feel that a lot of younger people do not care to hear anything from older people. Whether that's because they feel like, what do you know? Look where you're at. Or what do you know? Look where the state of the world's at, kind of thing. And it does a disservice to that individual, because it's like, well, you can only do so much as an individual, especially if you're not like if you were like most people and have not had the opportunity or chance to be in a position of being able to do anything about it at that regard, like more so on a personal level. Don't ever hear anything about giving advice, which to me is kind of like, I in one hand I understand it, because it's like, well, what do you know? You don't know my circumstances and stuff like that. And I get that mentality, but I think the other part of that mentality that should be kept in your head there is that, well, they don't know that, but well, what is it that they're going to say? Because you get the ones that are like, well, you go for a new job, just go up and give a hearty handshake. I know that one gets belly booed about, as if that's what people do nowadays, and they haven't done that for quite a few years. But that's what they talked about back in the olden days, and it's just not advice that's very applicable nowadays. So, yes, we can roll our eyes about it, because you try to do that if you're needing a job, and even if it's just something like a grocery store or whatnot. Most times, unless it's a very, very local grocery store, they're probably going to be like, hey, go onto the website and go to careers and put in your application through there. It's a bit of a divorce from human interaction, because you gotta love that. So it's you have that, or for example, there's an individual who is that I know, who is not very good with their money, and another individual that I know, we talk about these things. And this individual that I know is a bit younger, and I'd say it, like, this is what I know, this is what I'm seeing, this is how I do things, like, this is what I do, this is how I budget, and, for example, I see how much I have, and I budget for what I get normally on average week to week, and with that I extrapolate out, okay, pay off the bills. I forecast out for a month and a half or so. So here's all the bills. They're all taken care of. Now, go from there. What I got left, average that out per day, and that's what I can spend per day. And then if whatever I have, say it's only $20 a day, and say I spend only $10 for 2 days. There's $20 there. Now, some people may take that mentality and be like, I got 20 extra bucks to spend. And sometimes I do that. But there's other times where I'm like, okay, we got $20. We can kick it back, and that adds to the savings kitty and all that sort of stuff. And we go from there. So I gave this advice, and I'm like, I get it. So for some people, they can go really strict on themselves. There's times where I do that. There's other times where I'm like, I wish to spend the money I earn, because it's been a very, very long stretch of time in life where it's just like I have to save every single penny that I can, and hope to God I could make it. And it's not a fun way to live. It is very how to put it, crushing, sort of, but I mean, there's buffers to, with entertainment and things that you have that can kind of soften that, but it's just blech. I mean, certainly you can be appreciative of walks and things like that, but it's still just a rough go at it. You're like, gracious. And I gave this advice. To the one person B, and they took it to however heart they wished to take it. But they were like, okay, all right, I've seen what I'm aware of what you've done, and I know this and whatnot. And then person B proceeded to give person A this same information, and they were like, that doesn't work for me. It's just a complete poo. And months later, it's the same song and dance that person A is constantly struggling to make ends meet. They're doing all these crazy things to try to make sure they can afford their bills and rent and stuff like that, and I talk with person B about it, and it's just like there's not more I can there's not more any of us can do. Like, person A wishes to be like that, they're gonna have to learn that lesson. if other than just simply, it just doesn't work. Doesn't work for me. We get a lot of that. Doesn't work for me, and I think that's part of the habit built from being able to have so much accessibility and so many choices on things, is that we don't learn to go, okay, how do we work around this? Like, my roommate, my mother's even said this about me when it comes to cooking. Like, I have this weird knack with cooking that I can look at the pantry and just have like 4 or 5 different things and be like, okay, some of this ain't gonna work, but we can figure out something, and just you finagle together a dish of some sort, or, for dinner or lunch, and you make it work, and it comes out pretty tasty, surprisingly. And maybe it's just because of maybe because there's just the joy of cooking being imbued into the food itself, but which there's probably something to that. I think Bourdain was very, very adamant about that with cooking, and I think a lot of people as well with certain aspects. Anyway, the you just you it feels like, when you're playing the game of life. And that is what it is. And unfortunately, we've kind of internalized game to mean like fun, no consequences, or at least no bad repercussions, so to say. But that's not what a game is necessarily, right? Maybe make a sport of it. Yes, the sport of life might be a better, more modern way of spinning it. But we in the sport of life, we have our choices that we would like to be able to make. We'd like to have a bajillion dollars. We'd like to have this, or we'd like to have these sorts of comforts and everything like that. Instead of looking at what we do have the choice for, perhaps we would like to have choices A through Z, whatever. But instead, we only have the choices A, R, X. Like maybe throw in an M. We have those choices, and so we're a little bit more narrowed in what we can do, but we don't think of it as such. And I think, and part of that could be how we feel like we are the main characters. I mean, we certainly get told that you're the main character of your life. Sure, but unfortunately, we like to project that as we see the main characters for other things and whatnot, and it's kind of makes me so like, and it makes me think of like so a very long time it took me to be interested in Morrowind, and part of the problem with that was that it's a very sandbox. It's very open. Sure, there is the story to play through and whatnot, and that was for a long time what I preferred, was just, okay, give me the story. What do you want to try to like tell me about? Let's go. And that's because it's a game. For me, it's just entertainment, and that's the end of it. Like, if I wanted to make choices and do the things, that's what I have life for. Like, that's what I do in life. I go about and do that, and I just like, okay, we're doing this. Okay, I'm doing this. Okay. And I don't even remember where I was going with that tangent, but I guess that's what it is just recognizing what in your life you can make choices about, or can't, because you certainly could make a choice about this, but it's going to affect other things. You gotta like balance all that out, and I think when you give people who are so inundated with stuff. What is that? Having executive function or executive decision making being an issue. I think I can't remember what the exact phrasing of it is. I've known people like that, so when interacting with them and doing things with them, I would try to give them even just small things to kind of build up the habit. So, going for a walk or something and chit chatting, we get up to an intersection, pass it to them. Hey, which way do you want to go? It doesn't have to be every single time, of course, but it's just like as something to just build up the habit, because that we are creatures of habit. So, but I think we're gonna leave it there. Yeah, there's a lot of poisons out there. I mean, like I said, I didn't even really get into the food stuff. The food stuff's that's a pretty damning one, because you are what you eat. And to paraphrase a Mishmash Blues Cowboy Bebop episode, hamburger spike is different from beef and bell pepper spike. So, but yeah, so that's I think we're gonna leave it there. So, yeah, thanks for listening. Enjoy your weekday, weeknight, weekend, and everything in between. And I will catch you next week. Thanks for listening. And I guess the outro is going to be the was it Brandon Weeb? Brandon Weib? I think it's Weeb. I'm going to go with Weeb. Brandon Weeb. It's his remake of the end credits from the GoldenEye 64 soundtrack. So yeah, enjoy. Take care, and I'll catch you next week. Toodles.